The savage beasts that plague the realm of Gur are matched in their ferocity only by the bountiful meats their carcasses produce once slain. Many from Gur make their way by providing food from various creatures to the other realms. However, one kingdom was renowned for the ability to provide the meat and offal from monstrosities no other would dare face in combat. A small castle managed to hold in the Shifting Lands, and although its size was inappreciable, its reputation for providing some of the greatest meats in the mortal realms was well known. Castle Moonbrooke, led by the gracious King Doan Castellan, along with Prince Simon, led campaign after campaign against all but the mightiest god beasts. The linchpin of their continued success, against what would otherwise be a string of suicide missions, was Kennel Master Cornelia Varcona. Cornelia's elite royal hounds excelled at tracking and felling beasts quadruple their size. Her steadfast steeds provided the cavalry of Moonbrooke with the tireless mounts they could pursue their targets for days if needed, although the blinding speed and viciousness of the royal hounds rarely required such lengths. The mammoth god bird Empyrea, whose incandescent rainbow wings blotted out the light of Hysh, was too mighty even for Doan and his kingdom. However, a beast of such magnitude surely must have had young that could provide a legendary boon. This was indeed the case, as the Kennel Master, along with her royal hounds, had, over several weeks, unveiled the feeding patterns that required Empyrea to leave her young unguarded. Prince Simon and Cornelia led an elite team of paladins to Empyrea's roost to see what young they could pirate. The two massive chicks they found could do little to defend themselves against the searing force of Moonbrooke. Although the act of slaying young carried no honor with it, it was all for the greater good, as their meat could feed hundreds. The death of two chicks was surely to provide sustenance for so many free people. The caravans that followed the elite vanguard returned to the castle at full capacity, and the kingdom rejoiced. The butchers had only just begun to separate the meat when a chill filled the air. Not just an ominous chill, but frost began to collect on the court's lips, and the merriment died as the chilling air rose. Suddenly, the doors of the castle burst open with such explosive force that splinters hurled like spears through the air, impaling two unfortunate serfs nearby. Grotesque ogres ravaged the castle grounds, mounted on great tusked beasts, leaving a trail of dead in their wake. These uncouth scum would be enough of an issue to deal with, but it was the devastating storm that they brought with them that shook the kingdom to its core. Icy winds froze the castle over as raiders made their way straight to the butchery, killing in their way. Once again, it was Cornelia and her hounds that would again seal victory, albeit at a heavy cost. Hounds and paladins worked in almost inhuman synchronicity to strike down the foul invaders, piercing through the ogre flesh and tusked hide alike with swords and teeth. Victory was Moonbrooke's, but the toll was great, as fully half of the court perished during the frigid melee. However, the greatest blow came from the Everwinter storm that now cursed the castle. Doan and his people were now entombed in their own stronghold, and no amount of force could break away the ice that sealed them in. The spawn of Empyrea fed the court for weeks, but the ice never melted. Rations were depleted, and people became desperate. Royal hounds were the next logical step to be consumed, and although they were honored as rank-holding members of the court, a human life was worth more than a beast's life. Though one esteemed member of Moonbrooke would not stand for this, Kennel Master Cornelia thrust herself in front of the hounds and demanded that she be consumed before anyone would consume her life's greatest work. Any attempt at convincing her otherwise was in vain. She would not be swayed. As the tourniquet tightened around Cornelia's arm, a single tear rolled down her cheek in tandem with the solemn howls of her companions. A blade came down from above and severed her arm, which was then presented to the king. Without any preparation or ceremony, Doan bit into the supple flesh. blood filling his beard and gullet. Not a moment after this first bite did the icy walls of the castle shatter. In walked a ruler garbed in the most resplendent robes that made Doan's regalia appear banal in comparison. The foreign ruler's radiant aura filled the air with peace after many weeks of despair. This welcome visitor let Doan and his court know that their suffering had come to an end, that he had prepared a feast, not only for the king but his entire kingdom as well. Doan graciously accepted, and in what feels like an instant, all of Moonbrooke found themselves at a grand table, feasting on the most decadent and delicious meats they had ever partaken of. Surprisingly, the foreign ruler wanted nothing in return for his selfless offering, and with a bow, he departed the land. The ice had melted, and the people of Moonbrooke had never felt such vigor and happiness. The kingdom continued to hunt great beasts. However, Prince Simon was now able to commune with these majestic griffins and hippogriffs of the realm, taming the creatures to aid the court in their mission. Perhaps this was yet another boon granted by the foreign ruler, but the only problem that Moonbrooke faced was the cessation of neighboring cities coming to collect the meat provided by the royal hunts. Now only savage barbarian hordes visited the kingdom, which were promptly slaughtered. The noble court of Moonbrooke would not be pillaged or sullied by such filth. Their role would not be compromised, as Doan took pride in being one of the premier providers of the mortal realms. The king and his prince, along with the kennel master and her royal hounds, would travel the lands providing sustenance to all. From the blasted lands of Akshi to the verdant forests of Giran, Moonbrooke quested, destroying evil barbarians and monstrosities as they presented themselves. The court was happy to accept this noble cause, although the amount of iniquity has seemed to rise since their feast with the foreign ruler. No matter, as the realms must be fed, and more wicked assailants meant more food. And so the court of Moonbrooke left their castle not only to conquer great beasts for their meat, but also to protect people from harm. The forces of evil would rampage no longer. The people would be free to join in their court and their feasts. Feasts all should have the pleasure of enjoying. Their first destination was the neighboring settlement of Paslia. People there had come to rely on Moonbrooke for food in exchange for medicines and Paslian apothecaries crafted from unique flora in the area, and their bond with King Doan was steadfast. The court rode into the city, but where once they were greeted with fanfare and adoration, only the sick shrieks of rabid barbarians filled the air. The barbarians did not approach, but whether it was them readying for a trap or their fear of the noble court, it mattered very little. Prince Simon and his royal griffin tore through swaths of the vile creatures, as the royal hounds encircled their prey before ripping them limb from limb. King Doan called upon Cornelia to strike the fools that ravaged Paslia from the rear. The kennel master's years of service communing with beasts had gifted her a blessing from the gods above, and she descended upon the invaders on resplendent wings. The barbarians even had the audacity to have their leader wear the same regalia as the Paslian chieftain as he sat upon his stolen throne. The disrespect ended as the paladin Highguard sank his holy axe into the skull of the barbarian. The settlement had been fully destroyed. Sadly, though, the twisted assailants left no Paslian alive before Moonbrooke arrived. The raiders paid dearly for their transgressions, however, and their gore littering the streets was a testament to this. Doan and his court said a prayer for the fallen Paslia and departed for this next city. But first, a feast to celebrate the victory was in order.